Welcome to The Jump, presented by Best Buy.
It's going to be a dogfight. Both have great opportunities in front of us, and, we both want it, so it's going to be a war.
I ain't forgot. They said I remember the talk. I'm getting bread, so what you thought? The way I'm
on the way. Got it, Jimmy buckets. Another 5 minutes of play. The step back. Kemba Walker giving Boston the lead. Into traffic, got it, and one. Jimmy Butler delivering.
Can they get it done at the defensive end?
Blocked at the rim by Bam.
Not in my house.
The Heat win game one.
That's why he's the hardest soul of our team, right there.
I seen a lot, did a lot, I ain't forgot.
Welcome to The Jump. We are coming to you live, yes, from the court at the NBA bubble here at ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex at Walt Disney World in Florida. I'm Rachel Nichols alongside a couple of NBA champs, Richard Jefferson, who is here with me in the bubble through the finals, and the one and only Mr. Kendrick Perkins coming to us from his home in Texas. Coming up, guys, we're going to dissect the Clippers' historic collapse against the Nuggets that culminated in a Game 7 blowout. Who's most to blame for the Clippers' early exit? Well, it's The Jump, so we're handing out some blame pie here in a few moments. First, though, we are honored to unveil the 2019-2020 All-NBA teams right here on The Jump. Starting with the first team, let's go. LeBron James, a unanimous selection to the first team, and LeBron extends his NBA record with his 16th All-NBA team selection, passing 15-time All-NBA team selections from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, and Tim Duncan. No specialist there. He also extends his record for most first-team selections with 13. So who's joining him? Giannis Antetokounmpo, also selected unanimously All-NBA first team. Giannis was also named the 1920 Kia NBA Defensive Player of the Year, of course. Named to an All-NBA team for the fourth time and earned a consecutive first-team honor. Let's go to James Harden now. He received 89 out of a possible 100 first-team votes. This is the sixth time Harden is selected to the first team. He also averaged more than 30 points per game for the third straight season. Joining those guys, All-NBA first team, Anthony Davis received 75 first-team votes. Davis joins LeBron as the only teammates on the first and second team. Now, spoiler alert, AD also finished second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. All right, so that's 4 out of the 5 spots for the first team. Are you guys ready for the final selection?
I can't believe we started with what is it?
What is what? Who's the final selection?
Yeah.
21-year-old Luka Doncic.
Sounds about right.
59 first-team votes. Luka, the first player selected to the All-NBA first team, either his first or second season since Tim Duncan did it in '99. Doncic also becomes the sixth player named to the All-NBA first team at age 21 or younger, joining KD, LeBron, Duncan, Rick Barry, and Max Zalowski from back in the 1940s. Points at home, if anyone knew that one. How do you feel about Luka making the first team?
Rachel, I have zero complaints about Luka being on the first team. I thought about it for a while, and at first I was kind of mad that Jokic wasn't on that list. But looking at what Luka done throughout this season, putting up 29, 9, and 9, and his historic, and the way he balled out against the Clippers in the playoffs, the sky's the limit for the kid, and he's doing this at 21 years old. I have zero complaints. Well earned, well deserved.
Yeah, no, I like this. I think Luka, we talked about that 30-point triple-double month that he had. Really the season that he was having, and especially building off the Rookie of the Year. He was second in most improved voting, which I'm still a little iffy about that one, but I have no issue with him.
That argument again?
Yes, I have no issue. The Rookie of the Year goes on to be an All-Star. I don't think that that's most improved.
He went on to be an MVP candidate and made
whatever.
first team All-NBA.
Yes.
And the fact that no one else has done that.
But that was Rookie of the Year and then continued to get better at.
We're going to get into this again.
Okay, anyways, I have no problem with Luka Doncic being on that first team. I think it's very, very deserving.
All right, let's get to the All-NBA second team selections. Kawhi Leonard, Nikola Jokic, Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, and Pascal Siakam on this list. Richard, what do you think about those faces in front of you?
I do. I like this list. Again, Pascal Siakam and what they were able to accomplish in Toronto, growing and building, really improving. You want to talk about most improved. I think he improved from a role player to leading a team to the number 2 seed that everyone wasn't even sure if they were going to be a quote-unquote postseason team. So Chris Paul, what he did, everything, I have no problem with this list.
I have no problem also. I think Chris Paul being on the second team is well deserved. Dame Dollar right there where he's supposed to be. One could argue that he should be on the first team, even Kawhi Leonard, but I have no problem with the first or second team.
All right, well, let's
Rachel.
move on to the
But
third
you know
team
I'm gonna have a
then.
problem
Your
soon.
All-NBA third team is composed of Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler, Rudy Gobert, Ben Simmons, and Russell Westbrook. So, Kendrick, now that you know all the guys who made All-NBA, which player would you say is the biggest snub from this list?
Well, first of all, how did Rudy Gobert make it over Bam out of the Bayou? Look, that doesn't make sense to me. The best big man in the league right now is Anthony Davis and Jokic, and the next one is Bam. Bam is the most versatile big after those two, and I don't understand for the life of me how did he not make NBA all-team NBA. He should at least be third in place of Rudy Gobert. The last time I said this on your show, Rachel, on The Jump, the Utah Jazz fans went crazy on me on my social media, but this time I don't care. They can go crazy all they want because I got the Goon Squad to back me up.
Okay, Perk. Well, I'm the only person I'm going to talk about is Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, I feel like, you know, I know he had it was a very unique season in Philly. There was a change not having Jimmy Butler. And this team, you know, even with the injury to Ben Simmons, they were able to grit it out. And I just really think that Joel Embiid deserved All-NBA. Now, when you watched him play and he played well, the things that he was able to do. Now, he got off to a little bit of a slow start because he was like, I'm going to take things more seriously this year. But I think that Joel Embiid is a top 15 player in this NBA without question.
And that's kind of one of the things, right? We've talked a lot about awards lately, right? And what actually stands for what, who's the best player, does the MVP really tell you that? All-NBA is supposed to be about who are the 15 best players in the league. And it's not positionless yet, but the NBA certainly made a move this year toward making it that way with the fact that they gave you a ton of options for every player.
Now, the fact that Joel Embiid Joel Embiid has less votes than Chris Middleton for All-NBA. And look, Chris Middleton's an all-star. He's a great player, but the impact that Joel Embiid has on the floor to say that he is better than Joel Embiid by these numbers, that's just a little disappointing.
Right. I mean, for me, when I make my All-NBA vote, it is about who are the best 15 players in a given year as opposed to one particular stat category up or down.
Well, Richard and Rachel, this is not NBA 2K. Sometimes numbers could fool you. When you look at it from the eye test, to me, Chris Middleton was having one of his best seasons of his career, so I don't see nothing wrong with him having more votes than Joel Embiid. Sometimes I watch Joel Embiid, watch him during the game. Yes, he do have 30 and 15 on one end, but he's also giving up 45 points on the other end in pick and roll defense, so I have no problem with that.
Absolutely. Well, it's fun to have these lists. Love that the NBA gave us this announcement, and congratulations to everyone involved. All right, coming up, we got some basketball to talk about. The Clippers lost Game 7, so it's time for Richard Jefferson to serve up some blame pie. It's going to be good.
The Jump is presented by Best Buy.
About what we saw from the LA Clippers last night. Just an absolute, flat-out, catastrophic disaster. And that's not just because they lost. Yes, they were a team with championship expectations that got bounced in the second round. Yes, they have been thrust back so deeply in the Lakers' shadow, they may need a flashlight just to find the court at Staples Center next year. But losing, that's not a sin in itself. You go out there and compete. Sometimes you are going to lose. What is inexcusable is losing without competing. Losing after being up 3-1 with a double-digit lead in each of the series' final games. Losing without scoring a bucket for 7 minutes in the fourth quarter of a Game 7, when you have 2 of the league's top 10 players and have spent an entire year marketing your team with slogans like "driven over given" and "squad over self." Losing after you have spent a big chunk of this restart trash talking. And boy, did that come back to bite this team. Remember Paul George and Patrick Beverley getting into it with the Portland Trailblazers last month, first on the bench and then on Instagram, with Pat Bev saying Portland was destined for a 1-2-3 Cancun type of departure from the bubble? Well, as the Clippers were busy descending into a giant sinkhole last night, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum had a field day on Twitter, offering up invitations to not just Cancun, but several of Mexico's lovelier vacation destinations. First, CJ. Yo, Dame, you got an extra villa available in Cabo? Then Dame directly at Patrick Beverley. I guess I should extend this Cancun invite since I haven't made my arrangements yet. Then CJ, I'll bring the wine. Weather nice as ever, too. And CJ kept going. If they fly private, they can get into Mexico for sure. Should probably get the big jet. This was all just amazing, especially considering that the team that was doing the trash talking lost a whole round earlier than the team they were trash talking to. And that would normally feel hollow, except again, it's not the losing that was the sin. It was whether the Clippers showed any fight or not, a subject the Blazers are indeed experts in. And by the way, so are the Nuggets. Most of the chatter today will be about LA, but no one should imply that Denver was just some lucky band of misfits who just happened to be on the court when the Clippers self-destructed. They have two flat-out fantastic players in Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, and a team spirit that is literally unprecedented. In the 74-year history of the NBA, the Nuggets are the only ones resilient enough to come back from 3-1 series deficits twice in one playoffs. It's remarkable. And after winning last night, Coach Mike Malone credited the way Denver has nurtured its talent and chemistry over the past few years. While at the same time, Clippers coach Doc Rivers was at the opposite podium talking about a lack of trust. Lou Williams went a step further, saying, quote, "We did have championship expectations and the talent to do it. I don't think we had the chemistry to do it, and it showed," unquote. So can the Clippers somehow develop that chemistry for next season? Sure. We have certainly seen teams rebound from big playoff stumbles before. But to do that, they're going to have to not just learn to play together better. They are going to have to show they know how to compete. So far, we have not seen it, and that is more disappointing than anything. Richard, it's sad it's come to this, but it is time for another installment of Blame Pie. Serve it up, please. Who gets the first slice and how large?
Well, personally, I feel like I should get the first slice because I picked them to win a championship, but this is not about me. This is about the Clippers. And the first one to me is Kawhi. We talked about this multiple times. If you have the best player on the floor, and he didn't play like the best player, but he is the best player, reigning Finals MVP, two-time Finals MVP, two-time Defensive Player of the Year. Everybody's having conversations about not is he the best player in the series, but is he the best player in basketball? And the way he played was very, very disappointing for himself also. So this is not it. But if you have this type of player, you can't have a fourth quarter performance the way you did. Next, it's Paul George and the supporting group. The supporting group, and I'm adding Paul George into the supporting group because Paul George still, he has to continue to prove that we know that he is a top 10 player in the regular season. We've seen it with Giannis. We've seen it with other players. But the way he just struggled at times, and I was sitting right here in that corner when he shot the ball off the side of the backboard, and when I tell you, I turned around and looked, and the entire media session that has watched basketball for 50 years, all's eyes were big like, oh my God, what is happening? So to me, that just lets you know that Paul George and the rest of the crew, and then even you see the contradiction. Paul George says it wasn't championship or bust, and Lou Williams is saying it was championship or bust. So they weren't even locked in on whatever their team message was. So that to me shows you that there was a disconnect. And I actually appreciate what Lou Williams said more than what Paul George said in that. And then lastly, Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers, who I think is one of the best coaches in leagues. I think he's one of the best player coaches also in all of entire American sports. He is a great coach, but you cannot have three. There's only been 12 or I think it's 12 times that a team has come back from 3-1 in history, and you got 3 of them, 13 times that teams have come back from 3-1, and you've got 3 of them on your resume. You got almost a quarter of them on your own resume. And
okay, there's a little bit, though, of a sample size issue there. The man has been coaching for 20 years.
But what does that mean? So has Greg Popovich. Right? There's other coaches that have coached. So did Lenny Wilkins.
I
There's a
understand,
lot
but
of
Craig
coaches.
Popovich is probably not the bar that everybody else has to match up.
Doc Rivers knows the amount of respect that I have for him, but ultimately that says something about your inability to make adjustments as the series progresses. Because what happens is this. You knew that this team was able to come back from 3-1 because they had just done it before. So when all of a sudden you're at 3-1 and you see that momentum building, you have to have the ability to make adjustments. And if this has happened for you 3 different times, that means you struggle to make adjustments as the series progressed.
All right, Perk, you like this pie, slices of pie? Do you disagree with any of them?
Well, here's the thing. Kawhi carried the Clippers all through the first round, and part of this series also. He had one bad game. I mean, you can't ask the man to do everything. That's the reason that he's supposed to have a certified Robin and Paul George that I warned everyone about before the season started, that Paul George has a history of disappearing in the playoffs, which he did this past season, which he did this past postseason. And when you look at Paul George in closeout games, he's shooting 33% from the field, 28% from the 3. So did that shot surprise me that he shot it off the side of the backboard? Absolutely not. He always freezes up in the big moments. I thought he was trying to actually pass the ball to some person in the virtual stands. Rachel, wasn't you in the virtual part of the virtual fans yesterday? I seen you drinking the cold one, right? But listen, here's the thing. The Clippers, right? The Clippers are going to break this up. Whether you like it or not, I heard from an inside source, they are going to break this up. They are going to break this up.
Well, listen, Perk. Well, I agree with what you're saying. Like, I'm not talking about how they got to this spot. Obviously, Kawhi played great in the first round. Paul George struggled a little bit in the first round, and he started building off of that. But here in this series, how they played in the first 4 games versus how they played in the last 3, like, we can't give all of this criticism to Giannis, to James Harden, to all these other players. And Kawhi is coming off a great year. We have to start pushing some of this. Like, this is not what, if you're going to give everybody the number 1 title, this just can't happen.
And RJ, I'm not saying that Kawhi doesn't deserve some criticism, but look, Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell couldn't guard a parked car last night or in this series. Lou Will was horrible on the offensive end. He was so worried about trademarking his lemon pepper wings that he forgot with his. And that's to provide a bench production. And I'm telling you, like I said before, mark my words, they're going to break this team up. You just bet.
If you believe that that's what they're going to do, Perk, then I 100% trust you. But I just believe that you can build off this. It is a championship or bust, but it's not the group championship or bust. The group can grow. The group can build. They can use this stuff for opportunities for the future.
Look at you guys right now. You disagree, and yet the chemistry and the love and the family is still good. So it can happen. All right, guys, coming up, what was your biggest takeaway from Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals? We're going to just...
I was just trying to figure out what took him so long to back the Brinks truck up. He been deserving. He should have got the contract extension right after he won the championship last year. Nick Nurse put this year's Raptor team in a position where no one thought they would be, probably except for yours truly, me. But, hey, I'm happy for Nick Nurse. Well deserved.
Yeah, no, I'm extremely happy. Nick Nurse is one of the best coaches in the league. Ultimately, I think he did a better job coaching this year than he did last year, so that's impressive by him.
Absolutely. All right, the NBA has moved this year's draft. It's official now, November 18th. The new date allows the league maximum time to iron out the salary cap situation, gives teams more time to facilitate trades around the draft and free agency. The league said the date is, quote, subject to change as circumstances warrant, which, I mean, in 2020 has to go at the end of every sentence. Richard, how much are you looking forward to the draft, though?
I'm looking forward to the draft because you got the Golden State Warriors that have a very high pick, and you wanted to see, you got Ball. You got a lot of players out there that can make some impacts, and help decide what's going to happen next year in the NBA.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. RJ. I'm looking forward to see what Philly and the New York Knicks are going to do. Knowing that, Kyle Lowry, I've been hearing rumors that he might be heading to Philly, maybe Toronto land, LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball is the stud in this draft, in my opinion, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Kendrick watches the draft like no other analyst we have at the pro level. I'm excited for it. All right, guys, this is what my time. Hey, watch. Oh, yes. Bring it out. Come on, you got to bring out the Photoshop. No, the producers, they don't love me. Gordon Hayward was out last. There we go. They do love me. They do.
Oh, that's
he was out
amazing.
last. Looked, quote, good doing a hard workout. So, Kendrick, how could Gordon Hayward help your Celtics team against the Heat?
Well, Rachel, they're my Celtic team at heart, but you know I'm riding with the Goon
That's true.
Squad. But Gordon Hayward could help them. Gordon Hayward could help them off the bench. Right now, the way that Marcus Smart is playing, he's playing like the MVP of that team. He's been the most consistent, and I just don't see Brad taking them out of the starting lineup. So I see Brad bringing in Hayward off the bench to bring in a spark.
Man, we can't just gloss over his Wyatt Earp Doc Holliday mustache. That thing is gorgeous, Gordon. Good for you. I wish I could grow that type of mustache. But look, coming off the bench would be great. Those 10 to 15 minutes until he builds up, the ability to really play big minutes, that's what they should do. But those guys need it. They have so many guys that are playing 39-plus minutes. That break would be huge for those guys.
Absolutely. All right, guys, I want to revisit the Clippers, who, of course, blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets, in case you haven't heard enough about that by now. This was considered to be a championship roster. So, Perk, where do the Clippers go from here? What changes, if any, are necessary?
The bench. You gotta change the bench. Reggie Jackson gotta go. Montrezl Harrell gotta go, and Lou Will gotta go. None of those guys provided the production that the Clippers needed. Lou Will was MIA for the entire playoffs, and Reggie Jackson had got benched a couple of times where he got DMP. So they need to look to upgrade their bench. I'm sorry, Lou Will just don't have it anymore.
Perk, I love you to death. You my guy. But did you just say they need to replace the 2 6 men of the year, like the last? Look, they don't need to make any changes. What they need to do is they need to just run it back. I believe that this team has all the talent to run it back. They need to have some more continuity. They need to work on some things. But Doc Rivers is a great coach. They have a very good bench, and they have a ton of talent up top. But they all need to play better, and Doc needs to actually do some more improvements and adjustments.
No, this is not a popularity contest, RJ. Just because they have the household names,
I mean,
that
look,
don't
part of
make
the question
them good,
about whether
okay?
you replace
That don't
Montrezl
make
or
them
Lou
good.
is, who are you replacing them with?
No
They
one.
just don't have that much flexibility to do that kind of thing right now, because they gave all their future picks to Oklahoma City. Their salary is, that cap is all stacked up. Now, they would have a mid-level exception, but it's not a great free agency class coming out. They have a couple pieces they could move around, but that's always my question when people say, we need to change the coach, we need to change the bench, we need to change the players. Who are you changing them for? So it's going to be a tricky problem.
There's no one, Rach. There's no one, Rach. What you got to do is you got to allow this team to grow, like a lot of championships teams do. You look at the Miami Heat, and they lost in the finals, and then they went to 3 more finals, and they won 2 championships. You still have to give this team time to grow and to gel together.
No. When you form a super team, it's either championship
not in one year. Not in year one. It is championship or bust, but not in year one.
RJ, these guys are not in their 20s. We're talking about guys that are 30-plus years old, guys that are in double-digit years in the league. It's championship or bust. You think that Steve Ballmer traded away all those picks to bring in Paul George, to say that this year was just a sample size type thing and we're going to wait till next year? No, their expectations this year was to win a championship.
It can be that this year was a huge disappointment, and the prescription to try to change things for next year isn't to tear up the whole thing. Those two things can be true simultaneously. And again, to me, it just depends on what your options are. I'm not saying that the Clippers front office can't pull a rabbit out of its hat. We've certainly seen them do that before, but it will be a challenge. It is a challenge to move pieces around, especially right now for this team this offseason. I do want to get to the team that is advancing in the Western Conference Finals. Nuggets guard Jamal Murray called out the media after the win last night. Take a listen.
You got Shaq, you got Charles, you got, I think Zach Lowe's his name, I don't even know. Stephen A, all y'all better start giving this team some damn respect, because we put in the work and we got a resilient team, and we shouldn't have been down 3-1, but to come back from 3-1 against the Clippers, it was a big achievement.
Richard, I'm supposed to ask you after that, how worried should the Lakers be about the Nuggets? But that was your young rookie when you were in Denver. What do you have to say to that?
Well, let me say this. A couple of things. One, he is right and he is wrong at the exact same time. Jamal, you know my feelings towards you. But this is the thing. You had a chance to go to the postseason and you lost in a single game situation against Minnesota. Then the next year you go and you're up 3-2 and you have a game 7 at home and you lose to a shorthanded Portland Trailblazer. Then you're down 3-1 to the Utah Jazz. Then you go and understandably you're down 3-1 to the Clippers. So it's not like we haven't been given a sample size of why people should question whether or not you guys can finish this stuff off. But he is right. They need to start believing in what this team can do. And me personally, this is how concerned they should be. Jamal, you want people to start going to bat for you? I'll be the first one to fall on that sword. And I'm going to say the Denver Nuggets are going to win this series in 7.
Richard Jefferson.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because this is the thing. If they're tired of people not giving them the credit, then I'll be the first one in the media to give you guys credit and say, I believe that you guys can make it to the NBA Finals, and I believe that it's going to be done in 7 games.
What do you got, Perk?
Well, I believe you're dead wrong. You and Jamal Murray, and I got much respect for Jamal Murray. I think that he's a baby Gilbert Arenas. His game mimics Gilbert Arenas. I think Jokic is the best center of the league, but they're about to face LeBron James, who's the best player in the world, and Anthony Davis, who's the best power forward in the world. With all that championship experience and playoff Rondo, I got the Lakers in 6.
The Lakers in 6? Okay. Well, I got the Nuggets in 7. They have not given me any reason to doubt them thus far in the postseason, other than being down 3-1 a couple of times. But I'm going to be the first one in the media to give them credit and say that they can do this in 7.
See, 2 good takes. I like both of those takes. Up next, we're breaking down an epic Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Should we expect the Heat to keep rolling? Stick around to find out. There's the Jimmy I know. Let's check out today's Make or Miss, brought to you by Michelob Ultra. Make reunions. Players being reunited with their kids is the best video out there right now. Not just the best in the bubble, but the best. Jason Tatum with his son Deuce, and then Dion Waiters with his son. Dion's son started crying when he hugged him.
Oh, that part is tough, man. I promise you. I've been away from my kids for a week and a half, and they're just like, Daddy, when are you coming back? And it's like, some of these guys that have been here 60, 70 days, that's a pretty intense tour that they're going on right now.
Pretty awesome to watch these.
Best feeling in the world. Best feeling in the world.
So good. And then Deuce at the game last night was amazing.
Yes.
Star of the Celtics game. All right, Miss Folding. Nikola Jokic dropped a cool 16, 22, and 13 for his second career Game 7 triple-double. So, Richard, you played with him for a year in Denver. What was it like?
Well, I got to watch him play a lot that year. He is amazing. He's such a unique player, right? When you see great players in this league, they're a combination of things that you haven't seen before, right? Whether it's Giannis, James Harden ability to score. He is just as unique, man. And like the way he had 22 rebounds, this man can't jump. Cannot jump. He cannot jump more than 3 inches. He had like 4 dunks all year, and he had 22 rebounds. That shows you his feel and touch and his ability to see the game is just something that we might not have ever seen.
Well, look, he said that one of the best things that happened to him is that he figured out very early in his career that he is not fast or athletic and was able to play to his strengths instead. All right, make Clutch Gene Jimmy Butler. Looked like James Butler yesterday, although we learned in Philadelphia last year that's not his name. Clutch 3 from the corner, and then the huge and 1 in OT. Perk, I know you love Jimmy's resolve out there.
Absolutely. You know he's a H-Town, Texas boy. He's going to bring that heat, and Jimmy Butler is getting it straight to the paint. Getting to the paint, getting an aggressive and 1, going to the free throw line, earning 3 the hard way. That's how we do it, RJ and Rachel. That's how we do it down here in Texas.
I ain't going to argue with you. The way Jimmy's played really the last couple of years has just been impressive. Good for him.
He's got it, man. That dog is in the fight.
That's it.
All right, Miss Gimmies, time to revisit Bam's block. Richard, where does this rank in all-time playoff blocks? Where would you put it?
It is very, very, very high. Like, again, I can't act like I know all of the NBA history, but it's one of the top 5 blocks that I've ever seen. We're talking about an overtime, Jason Tatum going up. And this is the thing. Normally you see verticality.
Yep.
Like now guys have to actually go and get blocks. And so that block by Bam is something that we rarely see in the league. So it makes it even that much more impressive.
Well, Rachel, it's a top two. LeBron is number one, that big-time block against Golden State. But this ranks number two. People don't understand, as a shot blocker, Richard was not. But for him to go get there with his opposite hand, his left hand, in that crucial moment,
crazy.
And he wasn't afraid of embarrassment. He wasn't afraid to get dunked on. Like, he was like, no, I'm going to make this play. Like, that was phenomenal. But RJ don't know nothing about that.
That's
'cause he
fair,
wasn't a
first of
shot
all.
blocker.
But also, I do think the fact that it was his offhand is just part of what made it so phenomenal. The strength, right? Jason Tatum cocked back and the ball was in the cylinder. I mean, it was incredible. And I agree with you on the LeBron block just because that's the final 5 minutes of a Game 7 in an NBA Finals. But man, this is right up there and so impressive considering Bam's just youth and his able to just have the right moment to should be so mature and do the right thing.
Game 5, 0-4 Detroit. Check it out.
We'll stay with the Eastern Conference. Did you win that series, Richard?
I'm just saying. He said, I don't know nothing about blocks.
Richard, what did you learn after watching the Heat pull off this overtime thriller?
That this is going to be an amazing series. Like, I wasn't able to pick, like, they were asking me who's going to win this game. I was like, I don't know. But one thing that I do know is that this is going to come down to who can make shots in the last 90 seconds of 2 minutes, because they're both disciplined teams. They're both well coached, and they have a variety of guys that can make plays. So I just don't see a lot of blowouts, but they think this series is going to go 6 or 7. It's going to be who plays best in the last 90 seconds.
Well, I learned that Goran Dragic is probably one of the most underrated players in this postseason. We don't talk about him enough. He's averaging 21 points on 50% shooting and 40% from the three. He has been one of Miami's most consistent players throughout this playoffs, and we haven't talked about him. He flat out outplayed Kemba Walker last night on both ends of the floor. So I was more impressed by the play of Goran Dragic.
Yeah. Well, I know. I agree, Perk. I agree that Goran Dragic is a very underrated player for the Miami Heat.
And playing so well in this moment, and he's had an up and down sort of last year, I would say, with them, but really, really such a key part of their success right now. All right, guys, coming up, who is the best player on the planet right now? Perk is hot on this one, so you will definitely want to stick around for that.